main activist.
Some people in town say the base is run by aliens working with our federal government to conduct mind control and genetic experiments.
I'm leaving. I'm glad. Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass.
Welcome back to Season 2 of the Eerie Americas. I am your host, Kristi Hull.
And this is Vicky Ayala.
And I missed being in front of the mic, man.
I did. I haven't seen Kristi's face. Well, I did see your face like 2 weeks ago, but I haven't seen her face. Oh, this is great. I just miss the back and forth banter and like just talking to someone who's just as weird as I am that I can just say all my weird shit to.
Absolutely. And we missed you guys too. Like, we're super stoked for Season 2. You're going to hear some changes. We've moved on to a different platform and we're really looking forward to some feedback in Season 2. Let us know what you guys think.
We're also trying to do crazier cases and just more things you haven't heard of. You know, it's a learning process, and we learned a lot throughout Season 1, and we promised that during this whole break between Season 1 and 2, we would make changes, and that's exactly what we did, and we just kind of hope you like them, but we have been getting asked when Season 2 is coming quite a bit, and here you go. Yay!
2020 has been I don't know about the rest of you guys, but it has been a fucking roller coaster. Like, we thought 2019 was a challenge, but 2019 is still lingering into 2020. I swear, like, it hasn't changed. There's still so much going on in our personal lives. Vicky had the freaking flu on top of everything else, on top of taking care of her mom and on top of having to go to work, taking care of the dog who's been sick. She got sick herself.
And of course I get sick when as you guys know, back in Season 1, I got a new job at the end of November. And of course I haven't been there for 3 months. So of course I get the fucking flu when I have no days to take off. It's the worst. And so, yeah.
Around, like, all over the country,
oh, yeah,
having the flu. Sick. And then to boot, this whole coronavirus thing is freaking everyone out. So, like, the second I hear anyone coughing, I'm like, ooh, you know, like, it's such a bad time for this to be going on for many reasons.
I find it hilarious when people freak out, only because, like, especially in New York, there's no confirmed cases in New York. Even the one person they thought had it doesn't have it. So I'm like, you guys are freaking out about a coronavirus, but you all have the flu and you're walking around. You're giving me the flu. So stop, like... You're freaking out about one thing which requires human contact. How about you not give me your flu where all you have to do is breathe on me and I get it?
Totally.
Like, please cover your mouth and your face and your whole
body. And it's
almost
the end of the flu season, so it's going to be...
Oh, God, thank goodness.
Yeah, I've had the flu a few years ago, and I really would never wish it on my worst enemy. I really wouldn't.
I've had it once before, about 8 years ago. It is god-awful. And Kristi knows how I am. I push through most things, and I still do things no matter how I feel. And I was literally out of commission. When I say out of commission, in bed, couldn't lift my own head up because I was in so much pain, could not move. And the worst part is it happened during the week that my husband was off. He basically spent the whole week in a separate room from me so he wouldn't get the flu, but trying to, like, help me not die. Like, it was really bad. I was really out of commission. But the only advantage to that is that I caught up on a lot of television because I had nothing else to do when I had the flu, but watch TV.
We were talking about a couple things, so we wanted to give out some recommendations. And funny enough, like, I'm kind of kicking myself personally in the ass because we have a very big fan and listener. I'm going to shout you out, Dina from Brooklyn. She's a personal friend of ours, but she's also a really big fan of the podcast. Or we've been talking about possibly covering the Luca Magnotta case because
ever since like a year ago when she found out.
Yeah, we've always talked about it. And to her, that was like one of the crazier cases. So I actually wanted to do it this season. And I was on Netflix one day and I started watching this thing and realized it was about him. And I immediately like slid into her DM and was like, hey, guess what? You need to watch this right now. And she said she got through it just as fast as I did. And she was like, yeah, he's fucking crazy. So if you guys haven't checked it out on Netflix, I recommend Don't Fuck with Cats. It sounds like it's about cats, but it turns into this whole other shit. It's insane. Really fortunate that this kid is basically a moron and put himself out in the public, because if not, he would have been a confirmed serial killer.
Oh, most certainly. Like, he was his own downfall. And it's so funny because I did post about Luca Magnotta on one of our On This Days on the Instagram. And it's so funny because ever since that documentary came out, that particular post has gotten a lot of attention. It's just crazy. So you made me watch it and I flew through it. And then all of a sudden I'm getting all of these like notifications on Instagram about that post that was it was a long time ago.
At least 6 months ago.
And I'm getting all of these likes, I'm getting all of these comments, and I'm like, well, I'm glad to see people are paying attention to it because he's batshit. Like, the guy's fucking nuts. I'm a little sad that, you know, you're not going to cover it now, but it's definitely worth the watch. I definitely recommend it too. You just fly through it.
And it was just so well done that I can't add anything to case. You know, I don't want to just like bite off of them. I don't see the point because all I'm going to do is just basically
say what they said. Even things I thought I knew about the case, like I was like, holy shit, I did it. Like, I already kind of knew how he got caught. They speak to the people who started the Facebook group that led to him being caught, and I'm like, holy shit. There's no way that you would have been able to get into that in like one of our episodes. It would have been like 3 hours long, because to even explain what people went through on the internet to even catch who he was is fucking insane. Like, that's a whole episode in itself, is like crazy internet sleuthing right there. But it's also like, sometimes we get really down about like what the internet does, and like, yes, there's a lot of horrible things, but shit like that is why I'm happy it exists.
Totally, I agree. But what else did you watch in the midst of your flu?
It's funny, I didn't watch anything like serial killer related. I flew through season 3 of Sabrina in one day.
Yeah, I mean, we've recommended it before. I know it's been on our recommendation. This season for me personally was sort of a letdown. I'm still getting through it because it's just like, I just feel like I'm charging through it. It feels like it's at that point where they've already done everything they could think of, and now they're just like living on the success of the show. And you know me, I'm a super snot when it comes to these things. So I'm very critical of this stuff. So I think Vicky would recommend season 3. I'm still on the...
I would, because I have terrible taste in a lot of things, but I also had the flu, so maybe that's why I liked it. I had 104-degree fever for like 3 days, so who knows?
And cool.
Everything looked great to me. For all I know, all the cool shit didn't actually happen, and it was just my fucking fever talking. But one thing I just really like about, and yes, I did watch the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch from Melissa Joan Hart. I did. But I just like how dark it is. I'm always going to like how dark it is, because it just feeds my little black heart, and I like it. I don't think it's as good as season 1 and 2, but I did still enjoy it. But again, don't listen to me. 104-degree fever over here for 4 days. I'm trying to think if I watched anything else. I watched so much TV that I can't even remember what TV I watched.
Those 2 are good. We'll start with those for now.
But those 2 are definitely, I'll put it up on the website. Well, at least Don't Fuck with Cats is a must if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it and you're like, holy crap, you guys are behind, sorry, we had a whole break. Yeah.
I was trolling Phantoms and Monsters.
You love that site.
I do. Like, when I'm bored at work, I'll just go on and I'll see something. I'm like, ooh. So this is one from October, but it was great. And it's titled, Who Are the Blonde Ones? We all know everyone loves blondes, but this blonde would probably freak you out. I was 17 and working as a hostess at Red Lobster. I'm not going to give my exact location. Anyway, we were pretty dead. A couple hours before closing time, it was a snowy weeknight. I'm the only one at the host stand. In walks 3 individuals. An older woman, I'd say maybe late 30s. I love that that's older.
Right? Right?
I guess at 17 that is old.
It is.
Older man, maybe same age as the woman, and a young man, and all very tall, all with the same hair color, really light blonde. Exact same facial features, all wearing pretty much the same thing, unremarkable but clean black clothes. It sounds crazy trying to explain how weird this was, but they look like clones with different genders and slightly different ages. They had not a single blemish, not a wrinkle or hair out of place, and they all had the exact same facial expression. Like, don't get me wrong, there are family members that look alike, the same look, the same facial feature, the same expression on your face, the same skin color, the same hair color. Pretty fucking weird. Kind of smiling politely, but I swear it felt like they were looking into my soul. For some reason, I totally froze in shock. I guess maybe I could sense something was weird. Anyway, after standing there in shock for I don't know how long, I stuttered, "Hello." They didn't respond, just kept the same facial expression. Grabbed menus and gestured for them to follow me. They did. I seated them and told them their server would be with them shortly. They kept the same expression, and as I turned to walk away, all their heads turned in the same way at the same time to watch me. I know it probably sounds like nothing, but I swear it was so freaking weird. I came home and told my mom about it, and she told me a time when she was working her first job at 16 at McDonald's. Closing shift. Only one there. Tall, pale dude with blonde hair, and just like the people I saw, except his was long. She said he came in the counter, smiled at her. Just smiled, said not a word, but clicked his extremely long fingernails on the counter. She kept asking him what she could get for him until she finally got creeped out enough to go in the back. Has anyone experienced like this or had any idea what the hell this was? Maybe because I know in my bones they were not normal humans.
They don't even sound like humans. Like, that sounds like some weird Stepford wife or robot or some weird shit.
I also thought of the aliens, the Nordics.
Oh, yeah.
They're known to be very pale, blonde hair, light eyes.
Right.
And like, here, I'll show you the I'll have the picture posted, but I'll show you right now.
Oh yeah, no, that's weird. The eyes are far apart. And it's weird because when I was reading a random, like, we always look for who does that. One article said that aliens were mating with humans. And so it's like that picture, like the eyes are a little far apart and like the way that the head, it looks like it could be like an alien human.
A lot of people have claimed when they say that they've been abducted that they were being used for reproductive purposes and stuff. Is it possible they're just kind of following up with someone they've done experiments on?
Right.
Offspring and stuff like that. Who knows? I kind of got the willies when I read that. I was like,
a little bit. It's kind of just like creepy.
Yeah.
Speaking of creepy. This is a case I wanted to cover for a while, but again, for some reason, I always think that everything I want to cover is covered, and this hasn't really been covered much. We watch all those crazy, like, true crime shows, and I was watching something on Investigation ID, and there was an episode on this person, and it made me very, very intrigued. This is the case of Daniel LaPlante. It's not really that often that there's a case where, like, the actual facts of the case kind of seem, like, weirder than a Hollywood movie script. And I feel like this is one of those cases where, like, you couldn't write something like this. It had to be real. And again, I saw it on Investigation Discovery. The show was called Your Worst Nightmare. I'll put it up on our website. And the details of this case are, like, so bizarre that it's become somewhat of, like, an urban legend, sort of. But, like, you kind of have to, like, brace yourself because it's a little bit of a wild ride. So we're going to go back to 1986. And we're going to Townsend, Massachusetts. And here we're going to meet the Andrews family that consists of the father, Brian, and sisters Annie and Jessica. I believe Annie was 15 or 16 and Jessica was a little bit younger. And they had recently lost their mother, Deborah, to cancer. Like a lot of horror movies, this is going to start with creepy phone calls. The older sister, Annie, she begins getting some phone calls from a boy whose name is Danny, claiming that he got her number from, like, a friend because he went to a different school, but he thought she was really attractive, and he really wanted to talk to her. So, of course, being young, you like the compliment. So you randomly talk to a boy on the phone, and this was in 1986. There's no social media. There's no Facebook. You couldn't look it up. You kind of just had to talk to someone and get to know them. So she starts talking to him, and he says, I'm the captain of the football team, and he makes himself seem like this really, like, tall and athletic, really cute boy. And so they start talking on the phone daily. Like a naive teen would, she finally, after talking to him daily, agrees to go on a date with him. So she agrees to go on the date, and I guess these kids were ahead of the time because she was catfish. Because when Danny shows up on her doorstep, he is not this tall, athletic, hot boy. He is kind of the opposite. He's short, not athletic. I think in some articles I read that he said he was, like, tall and blonde. He wasn't tall or blonde.
My thing with lying about your appearance is if your intention is to meet someone, why would you set that up? If you're planning on just tormenting them and never really meeting them, and
right,
who cares? But if your intention is to actually date this person,
right, something, or at least lie about something that you can hide. Like, that's why you lie about your personality. But why are you lying about your look? She's going to see you. But again, stupid teens. So of course she's fucking disappointed, but she's nice because I would have been like, close the door, bye. Not because I'm, like, superficial, but because I don't like the lying aspect. And I would have been like, oh, nope, close the door. But she's nice. She still goes on the date with him. They go, they get ice cream, they walk around. But the problem was that, like, he was asking a lot of questions about her mom and, like, her death. And it was just, like, weird and uncomfortable. And between that and the fact that he lied about what he looked like, she was like, I'm not doing this. So the date ends, and she kind of, again, ahead of her time, she ghosts him and stops answering his phone calls. And, she kind of had more important things to focus on. She actually just lost her mom, and, she's grieving. So she stops talking to him. And so one night in June, her and her sister decided, like, they really, really miss their mom. They want to talk to her. So, like, we all would not do, because we've warned you 47,000 times on this show not to do it. They hold a seance to try to contact her.
Big mistake.
Yep. So they, in all their teenage stupidity, perform a seance in a fucking basement, and you know how me and Kristi feel about basements.
Never have a basement.
But they also kind of thought it was a joke and that, like, nothing would come of it. So, I mean, I guess if you really think... I don't know why you would still do it, but I guess they're like, whatever, we'll try it, and nothing's gonna happen.
And, you know, when you're a teenager, everything that sounds creepy, you try to pretend like you front. Like, it's not,
I'm not scared.
This is stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not scared. This is dumb. That was kind of the attitude.
Right.
Like, let's just try it. This is going to be stupid, but whatever.
Exactly. So they hold a seance, and then... later on that night, they both start hearing knocking on their walls as they slept. They hear this, and I guess they're like, oh, okay, maybe that's mom. And they decide to speak to the unknown entity as if they were speaking to their mother, because, of course, that's who they were trying to communicate, and they're trying to speak to her one more time. So they ask the quote-unquote spirit questions, and the spirit would reply by knocking on the wall. This went on for a few nights, but then they start asking the questions, and then the spirit replies by knocking on the wall. So they think that they really did unlocked something and that they're really talking to their mother. So this goes on for a few nights, but then the knocking becomes really, really frequent and it starts to affect like their sleep. And then it starts increasing. So it went from just like a few knocks on the wall to like a lot, like just knocking all the time. And now it's getting stronger because now they're noticing that things in the house would either move or disappear.
At this point, they think it's like a haunting type of thing?
They think it's a haunting, but they're not sure if it's their mom or not because now it's like kind of getting stronger and a little bit more bizarre because now they'll come home and they'll find like a light that was turned on would be off. Furniture would be moved from one side of the room to another. Things would be missing and then like pop up again later. So they are starting to think like, oh my God, this is not our mother. Maybe this is a demon or another spirit or another entity, something that's a little bit more evil because why would your mother do that to you?
Right.
But their father didn't believe any of it. He figured they're grieving. They don't know how to handle it. They're just doing all of this for attention or to try to cope with the death of their mother. I was also looking up why they were alone so much because I'm like, well, these girls are alone all the time. Their father was a bus driver. And because their mother had just died and he had to take care of them alone, he was taking on a lot of shifts and a lot of work and a lot of night shifts. So they were home alone a lot. So again, he wasn't even home to like see any of this stuff. One night in January, the knocking starts again while the girls were home alone, but they were like in a front room of the house. And now at this point, the knocking is so like incessant that they're literally going crazy. Like the girls, like they're being driven crazy because it's so often. But now they're noticing that the tapping is not coming from the walls. It's coming from, where do you think? The basement, where they did their seance. So instead of running far, far, far away, like I would have, the girls grab a kitchen knife and head downstairs.
Oh, yeah, because that's not the start of every single horror movie you've ever seen. I would not be playing these games.
No, they take their knife and head downstairs, and they're met with the shock of their lives. Written on the wall, in blood, was a message, "I'm in your room, come and find me."
What the fuck?
But at this time, they got smart. They did not go to the room. They fled the house.
Fuck yeah.
They ran to the neighbor's house. They asked for help.
Who in their right mind would go, okay, let me go see?
I don't know. They went to the basement, maybe. I don't know. But they didn't. They went to the neighbor's house. Yeah, no, like, blood messages on the wall. Like that, I draw my line. So they go to the neighbor's house. The neighbor calls their father. The father rushes home, and the girls start telling them, you know, again, the knocking, and now there's blood on the wall, and all this other stuff. The father checks the message, and he thinks the girls wrote it. And he basically sends them to counseling, which they probably should have been in from the beginning. But he sends them to counseling to help them cope with the grief.
So wait, he went downstairs and didn't see it?
Oh, no, he saw it, but he thinks the girls wrote it.
Oh,
he thinks that they're doing it for... Right, because again, he's gone, their mother's gone, so he thinks that they're just doing this for attention because they can't cope with their mother's death. They start going to counseling, everything seems to kind of calm down, but then a few weeks later, something else occurs. It starts the same way as the other incident. Knocking sounds, the girls are home alone. This time, the sounds were coming from Annie's wall, which is the older girl. And the girls, again, go looking for the sounds, go into Annie's room, find another message written in blood that says, "I'm back, find me if you can." The girls do the same thing. They flee the house, go to their neighbor's house, they call the father. The father comes, again, blames the girls. But then he comes inside the house, trying to go inside the house to prove to them nobody's here, there's nothing going on, and you guys are exaggerating, you guys are doing this. But when he gets inside the house is like a lot more chaotic than even the girls and the neighbor described. So like they told him like, you know, there's blood on the walls, there's something in the house, but he goes in the house and the whole house is like in chaos. And that's not what the girls told him happened in the house. So now he's like, all right, maybe someone was yes, something's up. He starts investigating, walking around the house, goes into Annie's room. He sees a message on the wall that says, "Marry me." And then on the other side of the room, he sees something really bizarre. His wife.
What?
Somebody dressed as his wife. The person had on his wife's clothes, a blonde wig, and makeup smeared on their face, and they were carrying a hatchet.
Get the fuck out of here.
Who was this person? None other than Catfisher Daniel LaPlante, the boy that went on the date with Annie.
So he was pretending to haunt them the whole time, and it was actually...
Plant then chases the Andrews family all around the house and threatens to kill them. Eventually captures all of them, ties them up, and tells them that they should start praying because they're all gonna die. But then he leaves them alone to like start rummaging through the house for like things to steal. And so while he's off doing this, one of the girls gets free and frees the rest of the family, and they escape through a window. They call the police. The police arrive really, really quickly and search the house. They found really, really odd shit. So they found coins glued to the ceiling. They found writing on the walls. They found ejaculate on the girl's clothing.
Ew.
But they didn't find LaPlante. I mean, first of all, everybody's freaked out because the police got there really quickly and he was already gone and they don't really know how. But they understandably don't want to be in the house, so they kind of leave for a few weeks.
But
right?
I would never go back in that house again, ever.
Right, so they're like gone. So it's not weird enough for you yet. It's not over. So they actually go back to the home a few weeks later, but as they're returning, they see LaPlante standing in a window. So they call the police again. The police are searching, and he's not there. But as the officers are going through the house, they notice something really strange. Some stories say it's by a washing machine, some say a dresser. Either way, a piece of furniture. They like one of the cops sees something really, really weird. They find a hole that leads to a crawl space, and in the crawl space was LaPlante. They found a sleeping bag, food wrappers, and beer. Now, this happened almost a year after his date with Annie, so it seems like he had just been living in their walls for a really long time.
That's insane. What the fuck? Who literally lives in someone's walls? I saw, I think it was a Korean film about people living in people's walls, and I was having trouble sleeping for like 3 days because I'm like, what if someone actually does live between your walls? How would you know? They hear when you leave, they can come out, they hear the keys, they can head back in. It's like such a creepy concept, and like this actually happened. I saw this in a horror film. That's so fucking weird. No.
Yep, and it's probably based off of this because he really, mind you, I want to point out that LaPlante's only like 15 years old, 16 years old here.
So he's not like, so he has beer, he has all this stuff, he's living in someone's walls, and his parents have no fucking clue where he is.
Yeah, he's 15 years old.
Insane.
And it seems like the space he was living in was tunneled around to other areas of the house, and there were a bunch of peepholes around the house so that he could basically spy on everyone, but especially Annie, like no matter where they were. So he could also see when the father was home and walking around, and he would purposely not make any of those noises while the father was home because he really just wanted to torture the girls and make them think that they were haunted. So that's why the father also didn't believe them, because Danny would purposely not knock when the father was home.
This guy's a true psychopath. How can you think that far ahead where you're like, no, I'm gonna let the dad be in the dark and like really let him think that it's the girls? Like, that's some twisted fucking thoughts.
Your job is to like torment someone else. Like
that's just twisted thoughts and actions, because
right. You carry them out.
He not only thought it, he actually did it. That's insane.
Yep. The crazy thing was he had actually already broken into the home before he went on that date with Annie. So yeah, creepy ass dude. And then once he had the
confirmation that he actually saw her through, like he mentioned, or did he just like start stalking her?
He actually lived in the area, so he probably just knew who she was.
Got it.
And so once he had that failed date and she rejected him, he saw their seance as an opportunity to get back at Annie for rejecting him, instead of just fucking accepting it like a normal person. So that's when he started knocking on the walls to scare them. And when the girls weren't home, he would move the furniture around. He would turn the lights on and off. He would flicker them when they were home. And he was just pretending to be the ghost of their mother, really just to torment them. In most articles that I've read, they stated that they did believe that LaPlante was planning on revealing himself to the girls while dressed as their mother. Instead of the father, he was planning on doing it to the girls. But they didn't know if he was really trying to, like, continue with this, like, whole shit and, like, pretend he was their mother, or if he was doing it to scare them, or a little bit of both. Like, they didn't really know what the reveal was going to be.
He was going to psycho himself and just kill her dressed as the mom.
Right. They didn't really know what the end game was, but they did think that he was going to eventually reveal himself to be their mother. All because he couldn't handle some fucking rejection.
Seriously, it's one date. Like, get over your fucking self. Like, I watch those shows that, like, those people that get stalkers after one date and stuff like that. And, like, this is, like, tenfold compared to that.
And he was already stalking, and then he just got worse. Like, if she hadn't rejected him, I'm pretty sure he still would have done something creepy because you're already living in her fucking walls at this point.
If there's there anything any creepier than that, I don't even. I
No,
don't want to know.
exactly. Like, it makes me question every noise that there is in my apartment. So now, they finally find him. So he gets arrested, but he's only 15. So he gets treated as a juvenile and sent to the Department of Youth Services Detention Center. And then from there, he's transferred to district court for processing. But because of his age and the fact that no one was actually physically hurt, his mother bails him out. She pays a $10,000, bails him out with the agreement that he was due back in court in December. So this is October. So he has to go to court 2 months later.
Seriously, like, these parents make me want to strangle them because you don't notice that your kid is living in some girl's walls, and then when he gets
But you went to go bail him out. Yep.
I believe in sterilization based on IQ, personality, assessment, and behaviors. Period, point blank. I'll say.
This is why I tell people to stop bothering me about not wanting to have kids and worry about the people who have kids that do this shit, because it's like, why are you worried about me? I'm not procreating. Go worry about the people procreating people like this.
Seriously.
So she pays the bail. He has to go back to court in 2 months. That's it. 2 months later, because he is going to get tried for his crimes against the family. I guess they just didn't take it seriously because he didn't actually hurt someone, but like, because I guess there's no law against, like, there probably is no law against haunting someone.
No, actually, in the 80s, there was no stalking laws. So you could
there was
legally stalk. You have to physically be hurt by the person to charge them with anything. That's what's
I don't know what charges were against him, but it's probably something stupid like trespassing because he was in their house. Like,
totally.
There was nothing else. So now, again, this is October of 1987. He's scheduled to go to court in 2 months in December of 1987. So you would think that he would just like calm his shit down for 2 months, go to court and face his consequences, right? No, that's not what he did. He pretty much immediately after his mother bails him out goes right to breaking the law. So he was kind of known as like a small-time thief in like the neighborhood. So he goes right back to robbing homes. And during one of his robberies, he steals 2 .22 caliber guns from one of his neighbors' houses. Now, again, he's so dumb, and I guess he's a teenager, and he's dumb. So he doesn't go anywhere but his own neighborhood to like rob people. Like, so he goes to one of his one of his neighbors' houses, and finds the 2 guns. I actually read in one article that his stepfather actually found one of the guns in his laundry basket, and when he asked LaPlante, of course, LaPlante like lies about where he got it. And then he doesn't tell him about the other gun. And, like, I don't know, this was just okay. Like, hey, where'd you get this gun? Blah, blah, blah. All right, fine. And then, like, that was the end of it.
Especially knowing what he's going through right now, you would think you would question him further or call the cops or let somebody know. Like,
nope. It's just, like, chill. Like, I found a gun. All right, thanks for telling me where you got it. Like, that's... So Daniel doesn't tell him about the other gun. So now he has one gun. On December 1st, 1987, LaPlante broke into the home of Andrew and Priscilla Gustafson. Their home was about a mile away from where he was living with his mom and stepfather. And it was 33-year-old Priscilla who was pregnant, and she had 2 other children, 8-year-old Abigail and 5-year-old William. So LaPlante broke in when she was home alone with the children while her husband Andrew was at work. A couple articles I read said like Andrew, he was having like a really good day, and he kept like calling her to get a babysitter. He wanted to celebrate, and he couldn't reach her. So he started getting a little concerned, but you know, he still comes home from work, same time. And he starts looking for her because he found it strange that she wasn't answering the phone. He starts looking around, and then he finds Priscilla face down on their bed, and the pillow is soaked with blood. She had been raped and shot multiple times in the head at point blank range. And the way that the pillow was positioned on top of her looked like the person used the pillow to like silence the gunshot. So he immediately calls the police, and the police would uncover the body of William, who had been drowned in the upstairs bathroom, and Abigail, who had been drowned in the downstairs bathroom. There has been some debate, though, as to how the children died. I saw a lot of articles that said drowning. There were some that said strangling. I did read in one place that the daughter, Abigail, also had blunt force trauma to the head and compression to the neck. So it was possible that it was a little bit of both. And another thing that I kind of found strange, that a lot of these articles found strange, is that the husband, when he found Priscilla, he didn't go looking for his kids.
Right. That was my first thought.
He called the police.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people seem to find this strange. But the articles basically stated that the most common thing that I saw in the articles were that he felt that he was going to find his children in the same way as his wife, and he didn't think he could handle it. So he just immediately called the police and had them investigate, which I guess kind of makes sense.
That's fair.
Because to see your 2 kids like that, like, you just saw your pregnant wife like that. So I kind of get it. So on that aspect, I do understand it. And then the police found the kids, and then they found a few items that they believe were used as restraints. So it seemed that whoever did this had forced their way into the house and then restrained all of the family, killed Priscilla first because I guess she was the biggest threat, and then killed the children one by one. And they very, very quickly kind of tied the crimes to LaPlante. And I did read that the husband, Andrew, was never considered a suspect. Like, they immediately kind of tied it to Daniel LaPlante.
I mean, yeah, he's at work. He has a million alibis.
Right.
So, yeah, it makes sense.
But Daniel LaPlante had already fled. Maybe now he would calm his shit down so that the police wouldn't catch him? Wrong. A few towns over, he breaks into a woman's home, kidnaps her, and takes her car.
And this is the same night?
The same night. The woman manages to escape, and then LaPlante, who is all over the fucking news at this point, someone sees him and recognizes him for the news. So 48 hours after he kills Priscilla and Andrew, he is found hiding behind a dumpster. He's arrested, and when they're doing like the little inspection, they kind of find like a hair on his sock, which is later confirmed to be Priscilla. So that is one of the things tying him to the murders. So during the investigation, other evidence is found. It seems that a friend of LaPlante's, and yes, apparently he did have fucking friends, had, made the bright decision to give him 22 caliber bullets. So these bullets were later matched with the bullets he used to kill Priscilla.
Who gives somebody that's clearly off their fucking rocker bullets without being like, dude, what are you going to do with them?
What do you need with
Sometimes other people need to be charged for being idiots.
Right, like, at this point, he's already haunted this family. And, like, even if he didn't physically hurt them, you have to know he's not all there, and then you're just going to give him bullets. Because people's crimes escalate. And so you're just like, here's some bullets. Have fun. They give him bullets. Now, DNA wasn't a thing at this time, so, police have to rely on other evidence. So there was semen found near Priscilla's body. And at this time, again, there's no DNA, but they have other types of testing. When they did the testing on the semen found near her body, it came from something called a type A secretor, and LaPlante was a type A secretor. I don't really know much about what that is, but according to True Crime Discussions blog on this case, it says that, quote, 85% of the population basically emits their blood type through their bodily fluids, be it semen, saliva, or even urine. So in 1987, 1988, this is how they obtained compared matches as opposed to the DNA methods they use today.
Got it. Gotcha.
So then they have that in addition with the hair that belonged to Priscilla that was found on his sock. And there were also fibers on the plant that matched some of the fibers in the home. And that's how they basically tie him to the crime.
Right. I know a lot of the stuff used to be like the evidence would include things that were taken from the home that they, and were able to match up. That was as closest to forensics that they had.
Right. Like they didn't really have the type of intricate testing now. So you can imagine that's why there's so many unsolved things at that time. That's why there's people who got away with being serial killers for so long and were caught later on because DNA just
or exonerated from a crime they didn't do because of DNA. Forensics has changed the game in so many ways.
And that's why like people like the Golden State Killer were just caught after all of those years of that because they didn't have that type of testing back then. Now, a year later, he gets sentenced to the 3 murders. And this time he was not given a lighter sentence just because he was young. He was sentenced to 3 life sentences. I'm sure you're all wondering, is there any motive behind the murders? Did he express any type of remorse in prison? And the answer is nope and nope. The only quote-unquote motive that I have seen in any of my research is just that he was robbing the home and she came home, so he killed her and her kids.
See, that's bullshit, though. It's one thing to rob somebody, get caught, and run away, but why would you...
Like, that can't be your only escape out of this.
If you were to walk in, see 3 people walk in that you were robbing, it would be bang, bang, bang. It wouldn't be upstairs bathroom, downstairs bathroom, rape.
Tie her up, rape her.
Shoot her in the head with the pillow. Like, those are premeditated actions. I'm sorry, I don't buy that bullshit.
I don't buy it either, especially knowing how the sequence of events from the other family, he was very calculated in what he did.
It must have been so petrifying to be a teenager, and then that happened months later, and thinking to yourself, that could have been me.
Right. Like, he could have gotten to that point if he hadn't revealed himself, and then, if he hadn't been found in that crawl space, what would have happened?
Who knows? They would have been the first victims.
Yep. He also continues to be an asshole. So, as a matter of fact, he actually spent from 1988 to 2014 trying to sue the courts. Why? Well, because he claims that the courts are violating his rights. What rights? Good question. So, his religious rights.
His what rights?
His religious rights. It seems he has converted to Wicca, If you don't know what that is, I will give you the good old-fashioned Wikipedia definition. Wicca, also termed pagan witchcraft, is a modern pagan religion. Scholars of the religion categorize it as both a new religious movement and a part of the occultist stream of Western esotericism. So it was developed in England during the first half of the 20th century and was introduced to the public in like 1954 by like a retired British civil servant. And Wicca draws upon the diverse set of ancient pagan and 20th century motives for like theological structure and ritual practices. So they're like more like a cult. It's a little bit of a cult and religion at the same time. So he sued the state of Massachusetts because he stated that when he converted to being Wicca, he needed and was denied access to dragon's blood, black opium, and honeysuckle in order to practice his so-called spiritualism, and he states that by being denied these items, the courts are infringing on his religious rights.
Absolutely, because every Wiccan I know or anyone I've ever met needed that stuff, and when they didn't get it, they killed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
like totally. So, however, there are other members of the Wiccan faith who have come forward and confirmed that not only are these things not needed in order to be Wiccan, they also do not accept him as one of their own.
Absolutely. I mean, unless you are somebody that has this twisted religious belief, like, you know, those like cult people that make up their own rules, you can't say that any real religion ever condones murder. So
Right.
it's
against it's like one of the most modern basic things in every religion.
Single religion sector spiritualism says you don't harm other beings. So it's bullshit. It's a lie.
And yeah, so he spends almost 30 fucking years, instead of being remorseful and thinking about what he's done, he spends almost 30 years just suing Massachusetts because he doesn't get his dragon's blood.
Please tell me this asshole's dead.
No, he's not. In 2017, he appeals for a reduced sentence. There are certain places that like got rid of the death penalty, didn't get rid of the death penalty, laws change. And I guess at the time that he was being tried, there was like a gap in between whether they had the death penalty, didn't have the there's like a whole bunch of stuff going on. A lot of cases were being revisited. And he appealed for a reduced sentence again because he was very young when he was tried. So like he's been spending his whole thing just trying to get himself out of there, not thinking about what he did. He makes the following statement in 2017 when he's trying to appeal for this reduced sentence. He goes, quote, "I do not have the words to fully express my profound sorrow, but I am truly sorry for the harm that I have caused. From the very essence of who I am, from the depth of my soul, I am sorry." Now, while some might think that these are words of a man who is finally accepting responsibility and starting to show remorse, to me, it just sounds like a desperate man saying anything he needs to say to gain fucking freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Because I highly doubt that you spend 30 years suing the state of Massachusetts for dragon's blood, and you're doing all this other shit, and then all of a sudden in 2017, you just feel so sorry for everything that you've done.
Those people aren't ever sorry for what they do. They're just sorry that they're paying the price.
Fortunately, like his religious items, his appeal was denied, and he will spend the rest of his life in jail without any chance of parole. Unfortunately, his last victim, Andrew Gustafson, died in 2014, but on his deathbed, he stated, quote, "Don't ever let him out. He should rot in prison." Now, I did want to mention, because I did I always try to research the person, not too much. I don't really like getting into people's backgrounds, but one of the things he said a lot, like during his trial, during court, while he's in prison, was he spoke out about being abused as a child. While not a lot of information is available about his upbringing, because he was like tried for crimes when he was really, really young. So a lot of the background of his life is sealed along with those records. But the stuff I did find was he did suffer psychological and sexual abuse as a child. Apparently his father physically, emotionally, sexually abused him on a regular basis for years. He also struggled socially and academically in school. He was diagnosed with dyslexia when he was really, really young. He had no friends, and in school, anybody who went to school with him and basically knew him kind of described him as being creepy or weird. When he was a teenager, he was sent to a psychiatrist, not just because like he's abnormal, creepy, weird, but he kind of also seemed to like not give a shit about hygiene or his appearance. So he was sent to a psychologist. So at this time, he's diagnosed with a hyperactivity disorder. But then his psychiatrist starts sexually abusing him during their sessions.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So after all this, basically any adult that's supposed to be trusted with him has abused him in some way.
Not to create excuses at all, because there are plenty of people that get abused that don't go on to harm other people. But I can understand that his upbringing is so fucked that his idea of what's right and wrong is skewed.
Very.
If your whole life you've been mistreated and abused, you think that's normal. So why would you go out and treat somebody nicely when you've never been treated nicely?
Right. Because you can't trust anyone, obviously. Your father's abusing you, and then the person that's supposed to sit there helping you with everything also abuses you. So again, we're not looking for excuses, but this is very fucked up. It was after all of this that he starts becoming known as a thief and spending time robbing homes in his area. And he kind of just went from like robbing homes and stealing things. And this is where like you can tell that his psyche is like, it's very fucked up. His total like sociopath shit starts, because he goes from just like robbing homes and like stealing things, which is normally what people who rob homes do. He starts robbing homes and stealing things, but then leaving behind certain items because he wanted people to know that someone was in their home. Like he wants to psychologically torture people because that's what happened to him. That's what he was known for in the neighborhood. Like he used, like, not him in particular, but later on, like that's what he would do. He would make sure that you knew that someone was in your home, which has to be one of the most uncomfortable fucking feelings, is you come home and you're like, you knew someone was there. You didn't know who they were. You didn't know where they went, and you didn't know if they were coming back. So and it seems that he would like return to some homes and like just rob them more than once. So all of this kind of led up to his encounter with the Andrews family and later the murders of the Gustafson family. I mean, regardless of his childhood and whether you can believe in like nature versus nurture, or if did he suffer from a mental illness, kind of no matter what, I do believe he's where he deserves to be. But as someone who's struggled with like mental illness my whole life, I don't believe mental illness is an excuse, because like I said, I've suffered from depression, I've suffered from anxiety, I've had a lot of things happen in my childhood, and I didn't use that to like harm other people. It just kind of made me like emotionless. But like, you know, it kind of just all depends on what you believe, because you know, when you start listening to all of these stories of serial killers and people who do certain things, it almost always starts with something in their childhood. And while it's a reason, it's not an excuse.
With people that tend to be violent, they also say that they're kind of finding links now because, you know, science is just progressively getting more and more miraculous. There's no other word for it. But they're saying that certain people are already, their brains are wired wrong. Right. And if you're exposed to all these negative lifetime events, along with your brain already being triggered incorrectly, those are all the two things that you need to create this kind of person.
Right. Yeah, like they're saying now that there's there's malformations in DNA, like some people might just be born with more.
I do believe that there is frontal lobe issues with people like kind of just sink.
Right.
You know?
I also just feel like, I guess as humans, we always want an explanation for everything, and we just can't accept it. So we have to put reasoning behind everything rather than just accepting that some people are just inherently evil and that's just what they were. I don't know anything about his mom. I just hear about his dad, but for all we know, what if his mom was super nurturing? Like, we don't know that. Like, there's people, but there's also been people who were nurtured as children and gone.
I don't know how nurturing you can be, though, if your child's getting abused by your own husband. So I don't really know.
That's it. That's the very strange case of Daniel LaPlante.
That's insane. I can't believe this guy's still alive, too. Like, that sucks.
He was 16 in 86.
Yeah, so 17 when he went to jail.
He's like in his 40s or 50s. Like, he's not even old. So he's got, and I think that's one of the things his lawyers are trying to say. Like, he was so young when he got sentenced. And there's a lot of cases being revisited now where people were juvenile or minors when they were convicted of these life sentences, and there's like a whole debate on should someone that young be given life sentences. And there are a lot of cases where I don't agree, because I don't think your mind is fully developed at that age. But I don't know, like, it's on one hand, is your mind fully developed? Can you be rehabilitated? Can you just be thrown in juvenile detention center? On another hand, he was in juvenile detention center. They let him out, and then he killed 3 people.
Right, and that's my thing. If he had no previous predilections for stealing and for tormenting people and for breaking in and stalking a girl and hiding in their freaking crawl space, then it might be an argument to say, yeah, he could be. But also, let's be honest, the prison system right now is not a rehabilitation.
It's not a rehabilitation. It's just a punishment.
Sit there and say he's gotten 700 hours of like deep psychological help. He's trying to make amends. This person has barely, until recently, when it was up to the possibility that he can get out, never even apologized.
Right.
So what does that tell you? You know what I mean? Like, if it'd be one thing if we changed our entire prison system and people actually did change and they made the effort. I could see the argument there. But America's prison system is not set up for you to change in there.
No, it's a punishment, and it's not easy to come out of prison and do anything with your life. But at the same time, like, not that I understand, but if it was something that was an action that I thought could be rehabilitated, I would say maybe at 16 you should have been sentenced to life in prison. But there's something about his crimes with the psychological torment. There's something so intentional. He was very calculated. He was very calm. And again, he did kill children. So it's very hard for me to be like, well, maybe he should be let out. He shouldn't be let out. He shouldn't have a chance to have his own children. Like, why should he get that opportunity? There's plenty of other people who I'm iffy on whether or not they should have life sentences that young. Him, I don't believe he literally immediately got out of the juvenile detention center and kept going with his crimes. There was nothing you could have done to rehabilitate him, and he at only 16.
It's sad though, it really is. But let's move on to something lighter. We're gonna move on to Who Does That Now, because this is a real creepy spree killer slash taunter slash thief slash I don't even know what the fuck you'd label this guy. So let's move on.
Who does that?
Who does that? Who does that? Who does that?
So I found this one in not a usual place that we go to, but it was still pretty good. I found it on vice.com. Vermont man takes revenge on town board with a 700-pound statue of a middle finger. Oh, yeah. So I was like, I have to know what this is about. Quote, "We wanted to show our appreciation," he explained, end quote. A Vermont man was so incensed by his town's zoning regulations that he erected a 700-pound statue giving officials the middle finger and lit it with floodlights so they would always be reminded of his feelings towards them.
Because the middle finger wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough. Yeah, it's literally like a spotlight. Like, I'll show you when I get down to the bottom, and we'll definitely post it because it's too good. Ted Pelkey's decade-long feud with local officials reached spiteful new heights November 30th of last year when he installed the statue on a high pole in his front yard near Route 128. After his request to relocate his monofilament cleaning and truck repair business from a nearby town to his own property was denied. So he wanted to move his business into his house and he was denied.
So fuck you, basically.
Yeah. Pelkey said officials won't let him build the garage simply because they don't like him, and he thought the middle finger was just the right response. The Westford Select Board and Development Review Board has denied Pelkey's request for the large garage, asserting that his applications did not meet the town's standards for a variety of reasons. Among them, Pelkey's application lacked necessary information about lighting that will, quote, likely be needed for security purposes, end quote, and did not effectively describe the purpose of the building, officials said. So here's the image of the whole thing.
Oh my God, like, you try to picture it in your head and then you see it and it's like exactly what you were picturing and nothing like you were picturing at the same time.
How crazy accurate yet inaccurate it is.
I want to know, is that like a mold or a replica of his own hand?
That's a great question. I don't think it goes...
Like, I just want to know how this order took place. Like, did he do it himself, or like, was there somebody that's just sitting there that's like...
He's clearly the artist.
Yeah, I'm like, because I don't think I'd be like, hey, dude, can you make me a statue of my middle finger?
So he, like, carved it out of a tree.
Like, that's taking petty to a new level, because you really worked for that burn.
That is the king of petty.
That's like 50 Cent level of petty, which is what I aspire to be every day of my life. I don't even know. Like, that is amazing and horrible all at the same time.
But get this, it gets better. But while Pelkey couldn't legally build a garage, he does have the legal right to flip off town officials for all eternity.
So that's legal.
Though billboards are banned in Vermont, Pelkey's middle finger is protected because it isn't advertising a business or service. So he's not doing anything wrong, so they can't do anything about it.
That is the ultimate petty burn right there, because, like, legally they can't do shit.
Furthermore, the middle finger is a gesture that is generally protected by the First Amendment. So it's protected under our rights.
It's my right to fucking flip you off.
So Pelkey's $4,000 statue seems to fall under the category of, quote, public art. So he can pass it off as public art, which is awesome.
I'm also kind of baffled that, like, that thing costs $4,000. Like, you have to have a little... See, this is what I mean by 50 Cent level of petty, because I feel like 50 Cent can do his level of petty because he has so much money. Buying out Ja Rule's concert so that it was empty is probably, like, the greatest thing I have ever heard, but also means you have too much money and too much time. And I feel like this is the same thing. Like, this is an awesome fucking thing, but you had too much money and too much time to do this.
As it turns out, even though billboards are banned advertisements in Vermont, which I didn't even think about, we've been to Vermont, there was no billboards, so I didn't catch that.
That's so weird.
I mean, I kind of like that. That's cool.
I mean, I like that too because I feel like
We're saturated with billboards.
say like when you're in a big city like us, like you literally just like ads don't stop. They're on billboards, they're on buses, they're on everything, and like you can't help them, and it would be nice to go somewhere and just not have to see that shit or be bombarded with it.
Totally.
But that's hilarious.
The middle finger has gotten more attention for Pelkey's business than any road sign ever would have. Twitter users have expressed a growing admiration for his pettiness, and there's even a Facebook fan page for Pelkey's wooden finger statue.
So that's the real ultimate fuck you, because he ended up getting more business anyway.
Yep.
And I love that people love petty as much as we do.
But get this, Pelkey's attorney appealed the board's decision several weeks ago and is awaiting a decision, according to the Burlington Free Press. Even better is, this guy's so petty, he flipped them off and still got a lawyer to appeal it to try to move his business into his home. Kudos,
Can you imagine
bro.
if they finally approve it, thinking he's gonna take, like, I could see them probably approving it, thinking, like, if we approve it, he'll take the middle finger down, and he's probably gonna leave it up and still build his garage.
Man is the king of petty. He's gonna leave it up for all
That's
eternity.
gonna be his new logo. Like, that's it.
Yeah, man. So, but you know what? It's also one of these, there's this side of me that's like, yeah, fuck the establishment. So I love that he's just
Fuck
basically
man.
telling them to go to hell.
That's awesome. I like this dude, Mr. Pelkey's.
But yeah, I thought it was a good one to lighten this crazy ass case. I hope you guys missed us as much as we missed you. We are so stoked to get into season 2 with you. Please like, subscribe, check us out on social media, check out our YouTube. You know the drill, but most importantly,
Stay weird, Americas. Bye.
adios.